Hello and welcome back to Whiskey Wars. My name is Sean, and tonight we are going to be reviewing Jack Daniel's Old Number 7. So first, here's some things that maybe you did know about Jack Daniel's, or maybe you didn't. But either way, you'll definitely know them after I say them right now. So Jack was one of 10 children, and he was actually the 10th child. Jack Daniel's was born in 1849 and was raised, funny enough, in the Baptist church, the same Baptist church that would later promote prohibition and actually shut down his distillery. But nonetheless, Jack apparently knew what Jesus' first miracle was. He eventually got into whiskey, but how did he get there? Jack was an educated man, and he really appreciated the history and culture of his community. Because of that, he had a very iconic look. Jack was also quite the ladies' man, even though he was on the shorter side. He was only 5'2", which even for that time was still considered quite short. Of course, I'm sure that it probably helps if you have a crap load of whiskey. Jack, unfortunately, would lose his mother at the age of only 4 months, and then later lose his father in the Civil War when he was still just a young man. Because of this, Jack would then be adopted by a man named Dan Call. Now, Dan Call happened to have a slave named Nathan Nearest Green. Some of you may know him as Uncle Nearest. That's another whiskey we will get to eventually. Well, Nearest Green was actually a distiller, and that was partly why Dan Call had hired him. Well, not really hired. You know what I mean. So this is how Jack actually gets introduced to whiskey. This is his first introduction to whiskey, and Nathan Nearest Green would actually go on to teach Jack everything that he would end up knowing about whiskey. Nearest Green would also then go on to become the first master distiller for Jack Daniel's whiskey, and the first African American master distiller ever in history. Now, after some time of distilling with Nearest Green and learning the whiskey business, Jack would go on to buy what is now the legendary Hollow, or Holler, if you prefer, in 1884. And of course, that's in Lynchburg, Tennessee, as many of you know, and maybe some of you have even been there. Now, after distilling at the now legendary spot, Jack Daniel would go to the World's Fair with his whiskey and actually win the 1904 World's Fair Best Whiskey Award, which was kind of unheard of at the time because everyone expected either an Irish or Scottish whiskey to win this award. So this was really something that boosted the prominence of Jack Daniel's, and of course, as they say, the rest is history. So now let's get into this whiskey and let's see if the iconic and legendary history of Jack Daniel's is equal to what's in this bottle. So let's go ahead and pour us some. Yeah, there we go. So first, let's give this thing a smell. Yeah, all right. Now, one thing to note, this is actually now a Brown-Forman product. So because of that, it has a very Brown-Forman, kind of Old Forester kind of nose to it. So you're getting caramels, brown sugars, definitely banana, like a ripe banana. Hints of sour oak. Definitely some wood notes in there. maybe a little butterscotch, just a kind of a little smokiness, char, which is understandable given the Lincoln County process. Yeah, so pretty nice nose. But now let's get to the important part. What does it taste like? Now, I haven't had this in a while, actually. And the reason I decided to go ahead and film this is because, as you can see, this bottle is getting pretty low. It's been low for several months now. And I figured if I didn't drink it soon, it wouldn't be even worth tasting. So, but it still tastes just like I remember. But what I don't remember is that drinking as hot as it does, considering it's only 40% alcohol, which is the floor for a whiskey goes. If you get any lower, you can't even be called a whiskey anymore. So this is the lowest proof you can have and be a whiskey, but it still drinks fairly hot. Now the first one was my first sip of the day. On the second taste there, not as hot, but still hot for 40%. And unfortunately, not a lot of the flavors that you would expect from the nose are really shining through. You are getting caramel, but not real strong. Brown sugar is probably the strongest flavor that I'm getting. Of course, some sweetness. The banana shows up, but kind of lightly. What I'm mainly getting is oak and the char from the barrel, maybe a light smokiness. So Jack has always had this kind of finish they don't really care for. I don't know if it's because of the Lincoln County process or the other things they're doing at Jack Daniel's, but the finish to me is always this kind of earthy, kind of like garden soil with not really grassy, but it's probably from the Lincoln County process, honestly. It's kind of charcoal, earthy, kind of bitter on the finish. And I don't really care for it. There's so many other whiskeys around me here that have a much better finish, a much better palate. The palate is kind of flat. There's just not a whole lot of flavor there. There's a little bit, but it's mainly just kind of alcohol burn. And what's sad to me is that this is the best-selling whiskey in America. And I know for a fact that there are so many other whiskeys, just that I own, that are far better than this. This is the first video you're seeing from me, and maybe you're just getting into whiskey. Do a little exploring, do yourself a favor, and you might be able to save money on top of getting a better whiskey. And we'll see you in the next one.